dive right into talking about this week's light bulb moment. And I mentioned a little bit at the beginning of the show that over the past 6 weeks or so, I've started using questions, asking questions of the universe as a way to create more of what I want in my life. And this idea first showed up for me when we had a guest on the show, Chris Alexandria, back in October, and she was talking about askformations, which is asking questions instead of stating affirmations. And her primary one, not her primary one, but the one that she has as kind of her baseline one that everybody should do is, why is it safe to be me? So that's an example of an askformation, or asking a question of the universe. And it's something that we don't answer ourselves, but we put it out there in order for the evidence of that to show up for us. So if I'm asking, why is it safe to be me? I'm going to get lots of opportunities to show up as my authentic self and have it be a safe experience. So that resonated for me when Chris was on the show. And then a week or so later is when I first got introduced to Access Consciousness. And over the course of the past month or so, I've been getting different tools every few days or once a week from Access Consciousness. But one of the very first the very first tool that you're taught is, when you have an uncomfortable feeling, to ask, who does this belong to? Because it might not be your feeling. Okay, so that's another example of using a question. It's not quite in the way that I'm talking about today, but one of the questions that is kind of what I'm talking about today is, in any situation, whether it's a good situation or one that you would like to be different, is to ask the question, how does it get any better than this? And then you're just opening the door for whatever it is to be better. So if it's something good, it'll get even better. If it's something you don't like, it will get better. So I've been making a practice in my daily practice in the morning of asking questions. And I will have a few that I focus on for a while, depending on whatever is going on in my life. And I have had some really interesting things happen where I've gotten a lot of feedback and evidence pretty quickly that this is actually working. One of the things was, about 2 weeks ago, I had a dream, and I was writing about the dream in the morning, and out of that came some questions that I hadn't been asking before. And one of the questions was, and all these questions were about my lovability. Well, not all of them, but that was kind of the focus. And one of the questions was, why am I so loved just for being me? Later that day, I got an email from a friend of mine who I haven't talked to in, at least 6 months, who I always have felt like really gets me and really loves me just for being me. Email from her, been thinking about you, wondering how you are, and that ended up leading to a phone conversation. But I felt like here was the universe presenting me with, okay, here's evidence that you are loved just for being you. Another example that happened for me when I was first working with one of the Access Consciousness tools around questions, it teaches you to take a situation that you're not really happy with, and you ask several questions. One of the questions is, what else is possible? So you're just opening the door. I don't like what's happening here. What else is possible? And then I followed it up. I asked, there were a couple of others, but the other one that I followed it up that I really like is, how does it get any better than this? And at the time that I was doing this, I was driving in the car, and I love it. Driving in the car is a perfect time to do these. And so I was thinking about a friend of mine where I was feeling like we weren't really connecting. I was feeling like we were out of balance. I was making a lot of effort, and wasn't really getting a lot in return. And I had reached a point where I was willing to say, okay, maybe this just isn't going to be what I want it to be. But I said, I thought about the situation. I said, what else is possible? How does it get any better than this? 15 minutes later, I stopped to have lunch. I checked my email on my phone, and I kid you not, at the time that I was asking those questions, she emailed me and said, we haven't gotten together in a long time. I'd love to see you. So there's more evidence. So I totally believe that asking these questions of the universe or spirit or source or God or whatever name you want to give it opens the door for those things to show up for you. And it certainly has been true for me, obviously. So you can use it around manifesting something that you want, creating a situation or a state that you want, like with me, why am I loved just for being me? Or you can use it around shifting or changing a situation where you ask, what else is possible? And how does it get any better than this? So the way that you can apply this, if you think that this is something that might be useful in your life, is begin having an intention practice or an affirmation practice that you do. I mean, I kind of like daily because it gets you in the routine of it, but on whatever, basis you want to do that, if you don't already have one. And so add to that practice, if you've already got one, or in creating your practice, you want to ask the questions that are going to create the things showing up in your life that you want. So some of those examples are, why is it safe to be me? That's Chris Alexandria's baseline one. Another good one is, why am I so supported? So you'll find support showing up for you in your life in ways you never would have expected. Another one that I like is, why is it so easy to succeed doing what I love? And then the other way that you can use it that we talked about is for situations that you would like to shift or change in some way. So think about that situation and then ask, what else is possible? And how does it get any better than this? And look for the evidence that these things are showing up in your life, that the answers to those questions are showing up in your life. Well, I want